If not, then Senator Kerry.
Actually, it was a question for General Myers, but perhaps General Earnhardt, you can take it. Do you know what NORAD's experience is in intercepting planes prior to 9/11?
So we can provide that for the record, and I think the staff has that in terms of how many launches that we conducted each year back to about 1900 and why we were launched, and how many of those were suspected hijacks and what the roles we played. And we can provide that for the record.
I appreciate it. I've got some concern for the military in this whole situation, because the optics for me is that you all are taking a bullet for the FAA. And I appreciate that may be wrong, but that's how it appears, because on General Arnold, you in particular on that day covered yourself in glory. And I think the military performed, under the circumstances, exceptionally well. And I don't understand why and again, General Myers is the guy to ask, because it was a briefing at the White House on the 17th of September. And it feels like something happened in that briefing that produced almost a necessity to deliver a story that's different than what actually happened on that day. Now, is that, General Arnold, is that an unfair optic on my part? Or because, as I said, if you look at what you all did on that day, it's hard to find fault. I mean, and we really haven't uncovered this stuff. I mean, it was readily available. I mean, the facts were all there. And so it leaves the impression that there's an attempt to create a unified story here, and has you all, as I said, taken a bullet for the FAA, because the FAA should have told you what was going on, it seems to me. And must be agonizing. You lost 50 military personnel in the Pentagon and 75 civilians in the Pentagon on that day. It must be agonizing to know that the Secret Service had information you didn't have. And help me out here. Am I looking at this wrong? Because, as I said, it looks like you guys did a good job on that day, and now it just gives the appearance that you're standing in front of the FAA, and unnecessarily so.
Sir, I'd like to answer that question. And first of all, there's no scheme here or plot to spin this story, to try to cover or take a bullet for anyone. And I, for one, from the day after 9/11 to today, do not get into FAA bashing, because as I can imagine being on those screens that morning, as I can imagine being in their shoes and the confusion that existed that morning. Obviously, we know we could have done it better. We know today that we're doing it better, and most importantly, we know tomorrow we must do it even better. But there's no spin here for us to cover. We wish we would have done things much like as outlined by the commissioners that we now do because of what happened on 9/11. But I can assure you that we didn't get together and decide that we were going to cover for anybody or take a bullet for anybody.
Who briefed the White House on the 17th of September? Were you part of that briefing?
Sir, I don't know. I was not part of that briefing. I was 17th of September. We were pretty much still bunkered down.
Yeah, I think General Myers was the one who briefed. Unfortunately, he's gone, so I can't ask him the question what happened in that briefing. General Arnold, I presume you didn't accompany and weren't a part of that briefing.
Well, the only thing I could add is that the FAA, we were dependent on the FAA on 9/11, and the FAA, I thought we worked very well together, in spite of the fact that we were not postured to handle that threat. We were in the process of launching aircraft all over the country during that time frame. We had multiple aircraft called hijacked all over the country. We were trying to stand down all the aircraft that were flying, so in case there were others. And we could not pass, essentially, an order to our aircraft. We had, by the end of that day, I think General Earnhardt would confirm this, we had hundreds of aircraft airborne on orbit in case there was another attack on the United States. And the only way we could communicate with those aircraft, for the most part, was through the FAA. And so we worked hand in glove with the FAA in order to make that work.
Well, I appreciate you wanting not to bash the FAA, but my God, I mean, the Cleveland Center said somebody needs to notify the military to scramble planes, and they didn't. you know, you would have had an additional 30 minutes of notification. Now, as it turns out, the passengers on 93 took care of it for us. But it's, you know, I don't consider it to be bashing just to say to him, my God, you guys should have notified us and didn't. And that's a fairly significant breakdown. I want to also just briefly bring to your attention something I did yesterday. I mean, I heard, again, it's more directed at the guy who just left, General Myers, but when he says we were focused externally, you know, we have 10 military attacks against the United States, either attempted and successful, or attempted and interrupted, from 1992 through September 11th by Al-Qaeda. And we knew it all. We have the whole story, and we didn't. Again, the 9/11 Commission didn't uncover this stuff. It was a lot of this is just open information that we had. And of those 10, all but one involved suicide. One of them involved the plot to try to take over airplanes and blow them up, but they were U.S. aircraft out of Manila. And I just, again, if I was sitting in General Myers or any of your shoes, it'd make me just a little bit angry that that information wasn't delivered, so that your attention was directed inside the United States. Because these were military attacks against military personnel, including Rangers in Mogadishu, and we now have at least corroborating evidence that there was involvement in the Khobar Towers incident. And you know, General Myers says it was treated as law enforcement. That's technically true, but there was a significant, it seems to me, military involvement as well. Anyway, that's more of a, as I said, the guy I wanted to ask the question for is gone, but I think you're entitled to criticize, and I think you're entitled to be angry looking at the narrative over the last 10 years.